Welcome to the Desert Sanctuary with Karl and Laura Forehand.
Often when we have doubts about religion or simply want to ask questions, it can feel like we are wandering out into the desert.
We would like to invite you to join our sanctuary, the Desert Sanctuary.
We've tried to pick guests that would resonate with and challenge us and our fellow seekers here in the desert.
We believe that a key to the journey is to keep asking good questions, and we believe that all stories are sacred.
Our hope is that you will find life and healing for your body and mind, and that you will be able to be where you are and be who you are.
And now, here is our show. Hi, welcome to the Desert Sanctuary podcast. I'm Laura Forehand, here with Karl Forehand. And how's it going today?
It's going pretty good. I have a sinus infection I'm trying to shake. Just had the grandkids in, getting ready to have other relatives in.
Yep.
This coming weekend.
Yep.
So decided we'd do our podcast now instead of on the weekend.
We may not have time this weekend because we're
right.
gonna paint. Well, I'm gonna paint, and my sister's gonna paint, and we're gonna get the living room and the dining room done. I feel like we've gotten a lot done in the house this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Repainted your office, repainted the back bedroom.
Yeah, it's beautiful in here. It just got Winston's ashes.
Yeah, we did.
From our dog that
Winston the Wonder
had
Dog.
to be put down. And so sad about that a little bit, but
got a little memorial over there for him.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so what are we here to talk about tonight?
So the title is Why We Are Agnostic.
Okay.
Because that's the most common label we put on this nowadays.
Okay. Well, what does that mean? What does being agnostic mean?
So let's read the definition and then we'll go from there because I don't think it exactly fits. So,
okay. All right.
An agnostic, according to Google, I think here, is a person who believes nothing is known or can be known about the existence of God or the supernatural. They feel the human reason cannot prove or disprove God's existence, choosing to suspend judgment rather than commit to a belief or disbelief.
Okay, so why do you think that doesn't quite fit?
Well, I just don't think it's totally like where we're at.
Okay.
And to me, part of it sounds like the religious cop-out. You know, the religious cop-out that says, well, God's ways are not our ways. And so just whenever any doctrine proves ineffective or you can't explain it or somebody disproves it or there's a contradiction, then you say, well, God's pretty complicated, so we don't know why he murdered people, and those kind of things. I would say that we're more certain about some things coming out of religion, but a lot less certain about other things.
Okay, so what do you feel like you're more certain about?
I think I'm more certain that there's no devil, there's no hell, that there's probably no anthropomorphic God, a God that looks like us. And some of those things. There's more proof to disprove, more archaeological records to show that a lot of the Jewish history in the Bible is probably not accurate, and things like that. So, we've gotten further down some roads. Some roads we've pulled out, some things we've pulled out of, or pulled back from. We just don't sit around and say Jesus is all we need, because most times after that we're saying, what is that, and what does that even entail, and what does that mean? But we have done a lot of research, a lot of study, and we've studied mental health and trauma and how all that works and how ineffective the church was. And so, I for me, I don't, and I think you kind of led us. You were at the forefront of this journey that we're on. But at times we go different ways and think kind of differently about different things, and then it kind of comes back together, and we don't have a doctrinal statement or an anti-doctrinal statement or anything like that. So it's some, sometimes it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I think that when you mention that about like what is it called, anthropomorphic? That's a big word.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm surprised I got that out, but
I feel like
a man like God, a God like us.
And I think that's a lot of the reason why I am agnostic, because it's really hard for me to, I've always questioned, like, God didn't ever make any sense to me. And then, of course, I'm going to say the word wrong, anthropomorphize him. Him, even saying him is doing that, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, like, there's a lot of things that are mixed up in this. Of course, my earthly father was, is, I don't even know if he's alive, you guys, but was very much not present. So that made me angry at God, because God never seemed like he was present either.
Yeah.
Or why did I have to beg him for X, Y, or Z, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm his child. And so I think I started out being very angry at God. But now I'm like more at peace about it, because I'm not certain, and I'm okay with that.
So maybe let's talk about what it's not.
Okay.
Okay, so what is our existence not? Because I really confused somebody yesterday. One of my ex-Baptist friends that is blocked
are they
now.
Okay.
Is blocked.
I thought maybe
now.
they were an ex-Baptist. No, but they're an
they
ex-friend.
would never be ex-Baptists. But yesterday when we're having an online discussion, which never really works, but he had so many assumptions about who I am now. He said, I think you probably read some progressive author like so-and-so. And I didn't even know who that was that he mentioned. I said, I did read some progressive authors before I moved on from progressive Christianity. That was kind of a short,
kind of a stepping stone.
2-year stepping stone, stopover. And
I mean, it's like part of the deconstruction process, really, because if you don't go for the whole legalistic, evangelical, that's common. You go for a softer, progressive message.
More Jesus like God and things like that. Sinners in the hands of what's it called? I can't even remember what the book was called now. Sinners in the hands of a loving God, right, instead of an angry God.
Right.
And some things like that made a lot of sense, and I still have some respect for some of those guys, and women that studied and read their books and so on. But we moved on. But he was sure that was us, and he was sure that we just want to sin or something. And that's one of the things that it's not. We're not looking to sin more. We may have more tattoos or something like that, but we didn't. Whatever you think is sin.
I don't understand that whole concept of. I mean, think about all the Christians who, sexually assault children, women, inside the church. Like, that is sin.
And
we didn't do that in the church, and we have no desire to do anything like that outside the church. So, like, I don't understand what this. It's such a broad blanket term, right? You just want to sin. Yeah. Well, tell me what I'm doing in my life that is sin, that is so repugnant that I wasn't doing before.
Yeah.
You won't find anything. In fact, I'm actually loving people better outside the church.
Yeah, I think I am too. So we would be anti-religion, right? But we're not pro quote unquote sin. I mean,
no.
But what they consider sin and I think he mentioned that once, that I said, what do I do that you think's wrong? And he said, well, you condone homosexuality or something. I said, you mean I love homosexuals and I want them to love who they can love?
What does that mean, condone?
Yeah.
Like, I need to look up the definition of that word. Like, we throw it around, but what does condone mean?
I think he means that I say it's okay.
And that you love and treat people with justice.
Treat them with respect, and I treat them equally, and I don't think they're a sub-citizen,
Right.
And Baptists generally have a lot of people that they lower their standing. That would be women, black people, and
probably any race, really.
Anyone different than them.
Right, not just black people.
I mean, he was so aggressive towards Catholics and, non-Baptists, basically. He was just real aggressive towards homosexual people, to the doctrines they have about women not preaching and things like that. So aggressive about demoting people that are different than him, and would threaten his patriarchy in his tiny little Baptist church, and I'm intentionally being snarky, right, about that. But we are not, pro sin or.
I don't even know. Like,
sin is so diluted.
And you have to just define so many of these words. Like, well, what is sin? Because it's such a broad blanket. Like, what is sin to you? I mean, you may think saying "damn it" is a sin, saying a cuss word is a sin, and somebody else might think murder is a sin, but cussing is not. You see what I'm saying? It's I don't like to use the word sin. I would try to focus more around morality, and of course, they don't think you can have a universal morality or a generalized morality without their book that's so confusing about things like murder and slavery and genocide and all of those things, even tattoos. Right.
At one point you can't have tattoos and so on. So I don't use the word sin anymore. That doesn't mean that I want to quote unquote sin. It doesn't mean that I want to commit adultery or whatever. And yeah, I can figure out that adultery is wrong without the Bible.
Right.
I can also figure out murder is wrong much better without the Bible, because the Bible condones murder when someone thinks that God told them to do it.
Well, and the Bible condones plural marriages or concubines or whatever.
Whatever at the time, and it's just a cultural thing that they've woven into the narrative in the Bible. And so anyway, I'd say we're not pro sin. Okay, we're also not religious, and we don't. I wouldn't go as far as to say no one should be religious, but because I understand the need for community, but it's not exactly the same thing. But if they can't separate that, then if someone needs to be with other people, and do their thing, as long as they don't harm people, which it's hard for them not to do that because they create a codependency. Yeah. They, you know what I mean. Yep. It's about control. It's got to be, or if they want to grow. Yeah. And that's what he's trying to do to me, is control me. So. But we're pretty anti-religion at this point. I
just don't think you don't need organized religion to have community. We've talked about that several times on this podcast. When you first come out of religion, I admit, it felt very lonely, because that was your community, right? And you feel like, I'm never going to have that kind of community, until you realize you kind of sit in your deconstruction and you grow out of that part of your deconstruction and realize that there's community all around you. There's community all around you. It isn't just in a church building.
And I think in some ways we're kind of anti-spiritual, in some ways we're kind of pro-spiritual. I think where we've landed, and we've done a lot of different things and kind of experimented with some things and looked into some things, I could give a list. Do we need to give a list?
Nah.
Probably not.
I mean, you can mention a couple examples, but...
Yeah, so I've had a tarot card reading. We've interviewed a couple of witches. One, two, I think. We've, kind of Peruvian kind of spirituality. We have a blanket, from Peru
Got a couple
that's been
blankets,
blessed by some kind of shaman there, and things like that. We burn sage to it relaxes us sometimes. Kind of looking around. We
have incense and a what is that? It's not a singing bowl, or is that called a singing bowl?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And we went to our favorite Indian shop the other day and bought some things from that. A Hindu, right? So we've investigated. I've done paranormal investigations with some people. And really the thing that surprised me the most was when we got into those things, they want you to take the second class and the third class and the fourth class.
Right.
And we kind of got in there and pulled back a little bit and said,
because I think it resembles,
starts to resemble
religion.
Yeah, it definitely does.
So, although the paranormal wasn't like that, was it? They didn't want
really.
you to come back and invest in something else, or
they were really the most laid back of anything I've ever done. It's kind of taxing on me because of the physical part of it.
You'd had your stroke, so
yeah, it was after my stroke and before my heart attack. So, and one of them was away, but one or two of them were here, local, so they were here anyhow.
Right.
But I thought that was very interesting. But the pull is to get really into that and try to prove it.
Right.
If you say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I believe now about spirits and energy and stuff like that, this is what I believe, then you start defending it, just like you would a Southern Baptist doctrine. And you get, kind of dependent on it and go down the wrong roads. I think, I like that there's people who know more about it, so I can investigate and be with them and experience what they're experiencing. None of it overtook me.
Right.
None of it, I like to think of, Christians think the devil and evil is going to bulldog them, like in a rodeo where the calf takes off and the guy's riding the horse and he, it's like we're the little horse or the little cow, and some cowboy demon or something's going to jump off and bulldog us and hog tie us and take us off to his dungeon.
But then my thing is, if that's the case, and I mean that was some of the rhetoric that we heard inside the church, and I'm like, but then how strong, for lack of a better word, is your God then?
Right.
I mean, if Satan can just come right in, or demons, or whatever you want to call whatever, and just take over. That reminds me a little bit of Job, and I'm like, well, God was kind of a dick to Job, Right. I mean, to just be like, yeah, go ahead, Satan, have at him. Yeah,
that's the only people Satan killed in the Bible, by the way, were Job's kids. And his wife? No, just his kids.
And God seemed to be okay with that.
Yes, God let him do that. But yeah, it's in all the things we've delved into, and I think for both of us, it's just kind of I want to know more. I want to see if this is a piece of the puzzle. I'd still love to sit with a Native American shaman or medicine man or something. I would like to see those things and things like that. But none of it has just jumped on us and overtook us.
Right.
And I know my friend thinks that's what's happened. I know he thinks I've been bulldogged and forced into something.
But then I would tell him, I would question the God that you serve.
Right.
It
seems weak. And
because if Baptists believe once saved, always saved, then you should be good. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
No matter what you explore.
And if God protects you, he should protect you. But they just kind of portray Christians as, a little tiny girl walking down Skid Row or something, and something's going to overtake you. Mm-hmm. Those kind of people, and I say this kind of generally, I'm not quoting statistics or anything, but generally when those people are abused, it's people they know. Mm-hmm. A lot of murders take place with people who live in the same neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It's not what they say it is. I just almost 100% don't believe in Satan. Mm-hmm. I don't believe he was a real character in the Bible. Mm-hmm. I believe he was an idea, mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. an actor, a kind of a part in a play that they would put on. It was just a character that, was the accuser. Mm-hmm. But I definitely don't believe in hell, and I don't believe in Satan. If somebody can prove me wrong, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Another guy online is going to pray for me. I said, "What's he going to? Am I going to hear it?" He said, "Yeah, you'll hear it or see it." And I said, "I'll be waiting then." And you call me back. You get in touch with me in a couple of weeks, and I'll tell you whether that happened. Because I told him there's probably 1,000 people online mm-hmm. that are mm-hmm. praying mm-hmm. for me, and it's never happened. Mm-hmm.
The beauty of our brains is that they are always trying to make sense of things. Mm-hmm. And so I just feel that, what if this is just, not all of it, but lots of it is just part of a story. Like you were saying, characters in a play. I mean, I don't know as much about the Bible. From what I understand, it's like nothing was ever written till how many years after Christ or whatever?
In the New Testament, it was at least 60 years, 40 to 60 years.
Yeah.
But in the Old Testament, most of it was written 3,500 years ago, 1,500 years before Christ.
So, I mean, you think about the solar system, and a lot of things were thought before they were ever proven, right? And mm-hmm. a lot of things were written because this is how we think we can explain it.
Yeah, it's an assumption.
But doesn't make it. I mean, then comes science, right? And there mm-hmm. are things about the universe that you can prove because scientists have done the work.
Right.
To prove that it is true or prove that it is false. Mm-hmm. But, I just want to say, that's the beauty of our brains, is we're always trying to make sense of things. We're always trying to make sense of our surroundings and what's going on. Our brains look for patterns and things mm-hmm. like that. So, yeah, that's where I think, too,
Bible
it's
writers,
why can't Satan just be, there was maybe some bad shit going on in the world back then, and let's create an adversary. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's some sort of, and then people take it and they run with it, right?
And they think they can define that character that someone made up to try to explain his situation. And I think that's okay. I want to ask you a question, though. I'm sorry for interrupting kind of your train of thought, but I agree with you on what you're just saying. What about dysregulation? And how much, now that we understand how the body regulates itself, is part of what you were talking about, that our body's trying to make sense of things mm-hmm. and warn us of danger, and so it looks for patterns, like you were saying. But how much does dysregulation come into it? I mean, I wonder how much someone having an episode in church that people call demonic or being filled with demons or whatever, I wonder how much of that is dysregulation.
Well, I think it could be because, again, your body's just, your body and your brain are trying to make sense of it all, right? And so, I mean, if we're always searching for something outside ourselves to fix it, and then we're given this, well, just pray more, just trust God, just do this, and still nothing happens. I mean,
because the reason I'm saying that is because there were times that I felt like, man, I must be possessed by a demon or something. This is so crazy the way I'm acting or thinking right now. And as time went on, we learned
because we don't learn to get in touch with ourselves.
Right.
We don't learn to go, what is going on? What's this part of me that's feeling anxious? What's that about? Right. Yeah. And so, which adds to your dysregulation. And you're always searching for answers out there. Something out there. God, something invisible, something you can't.
It's magical.
But it's like, but I'm here. Like, let me touch base with myself. Let me figure out, let me get an ice pack and put it on my chest and call my vagus nerve, and then think about, what has me. I mean, I'll even do things like, so school starts like in 2 weeks, basically. And I was just sharing with a friend, I'm like, my body doesn't feel nervous or anything about these new 16 kids that I don't know. Usually every year I'm kind of panicking, and I'm like, I'm not this time. And
I can attest to that.
That's just because I've learned to go, it's okay to be anxious. Of course you would be anxious. Like, you're going to have to start from square one with 16 new kids, and you don't know them and they don't know you. And anyway.
I felt that way with 3 kids over here the other day. So it's tough for me, but you've done this summer, you've done miles better than before. And, I don't know what hardcore Christians want us to do to prove them right. You know what I mean? I sometimes think some of them are waiting for us to mess up or fail or whatever. But I felt like the other day when we had just a short exchange, which happens every once in a while. We just say, I'm pretty happy, right now, where I am. And I told my cardiac therapist the other day that she was talking about happiness and joy, and of course she was using kind of Christianese and so on. And I told her that contentment was better than either one of those things. And that I'm not dogmatic about that. I could probably be proven wrong, but in this season it seems like contentment is not settling. It's not saying we give up, right?
Right.
But contentment is saying, this is good, and.
But it's also okay to have discontent as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that I'm not trusting God enough. That, when your body feels anxious or discontent or whatever, that's just a time to check in with yourself. I'm not going to sit there and beg God to take it away because he never did. So I'm happy with and I'm also okay with going, I don't know why I'm anxious. I don't know why I'm anxious, but let me get an ice pack. Let me do some breathing. Let me just sit in it for a while, whatever I need.
Yeah.
Because I know that after school starts, I'm probably going to have some days where I'm exhausted and I'm just like, today didn't go the way I wanted it to. But that's every day for everybody. You can't tell me that because you have God in your life that every day is perfect and you have joy every single day. If you say that,
You're internalized, or you're
I
bypassing.
totally, you are bypassing. You are not in touch with yourself.
So I think that's still a part of contentment. I think.
Well, yeah,
contentment doesn't mean that everything is the way I want it.
Mm-hmm.
But it does say that everything is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it is what it is, then I can find contentment there. It still may be that I'm pursuing understanding, or I'm working to regulate myself, or I'm working through my mental illness, or working through my neurodivergence, or just dealing with a sinus infection, right? And things like that.
And I think you have to be careful with the whole, content can also be, if you're not careful, not you, but in general, if people are not careful, you could use that to bypass, right?
Sure.
I think it's okay to say, I'm content with things not being exactly how I thought they would be, but, what can I do to maybe change my situation or make that situation, it's just reflection on, if I have a bad day in school, I usually will be able to go, oh, not because of my kids, but because I didn't do X, Y, or Z. I need to do a better job of that tomorrow. Okay, great. That's the game plan.
But so I call it ambitious contentment, because I'm never satisfied with anything. I mean, like, if I make hamburgers and everybody likes them, I want to go, how can I make that a little better? How could I, make it come out more right? So there's always that in me. Or I do one puzzle and it's satisfying, I want to do another puzzle, So for me, it's really important to say that's good enough, right? So that was good enough. I did my best. Didn't do it all right. Didn't do it perfect, but I did my best, and I'm content with that, right? So that's hard for me, but it's kind of where I want to be now. And we're working on sprucing up the house a little bit, right? So that's the ambition to say, well, we can make it better. We can do some things to make it better, but in all stages, it's still got to be. It is what it is,
right?
So it's good enough
in
for
this
now.
moment.
For now,
right,
it's good.
For now.
And accepting that brings a lot of peace. I don't think you're ever going to stop trying to be a better teacher and do things better, but it can't be perfect,
right?
And so at some point, I don't like to use the gratefulness language, because that gets misused in Christianity.
Yeah.
Just be grateful,
Right.
Well, at least blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
and I hate that kind of language. Because it just makes you feel like shit all the time.
Well, right. And to say, well, at least, that's minimizing language. Yeah. It really is. That's minimizing language.
Sure.
So then what's the difference between agnostic and atheist?
So,
because I've never been able to call myself an atheist.
Yeah, I watch a lot of there's some Facebook groups and so on that are atheists, and most of those atheist groups have, I assume, Christians in there, kind of posing challenging questions. But one thing the atheists say a lot is there's different kinds of atheists, and it's slightly different, but they just, it means anti-theist. So a Christian is a theist, and an atheist just believes basically that there is no God. But the issue with atheists is you can get as dogmatic about atheism as you are about Christianity, right? Or about theism. Theo is God, so theism or the Bible, those get mixed together. So I don't want to explain what an atheist is because I don't think I am one.
I don't either.
I am anti Bible sometimes. I'm anti religion. I'm sometimes anti-God in the way that people have God defined and how they run that narrative.
Right.
So, I could be kind of atheist, but I'm not. I would just say, we give up certainty in Christianity so that we could explore. We don't want to become so certain about, or I don't want to become so certain about that God doesn't exist, that I become the same way.
Yeah.
Right.
That you've got to prove your point.
Got to prove your point and all of that stuff. Even though I'm, like I said in the beginning, I'm getting pretty sure that there's no anthropomorphic God. There's no, I don't believe in heaven or hell, either one. And what I've been kind of wrestling with recently is if God could create a perfect heaven and it's supposedly supposed to stay pure, or in the end in Revelation a new heaven and a new earth that's perfect and there's no crying, there's no dying. Well, if he could do that once, then he screwed up the first time. Right? If he can create a heaven where everything's going to be perfect, he could have created that in the first place where it wouldn't be corruptible and where people wouldn't mess it up or whatever. Whoever messed up his plan, I personally think he did, if the narrative is correct. So. Anyway, I lost the train there.
No, that's good though. I was just curious about the difference between atheism and being agnostic.
I think the main reason why I'm agnostic now is I want to stay on the journey, right? I want to keep discovering things.
Yeah.
There's more things I want to know, some of my friends, they get frustrated and go search and find stuff, and then they kind of start to rally the troops around that idea and stay there. And I probably have a tendency to do that too. But I'd like to see us just continue to discover, right? It seems to help our marriage. It seems to help our lives. We learn about mental health. We learn about trauma. We learn about, how people celebrate and how people deal with grief, right? And things like that. I want to stay on that journey and keep discovering. I don't want to say, well, I'm this. Now I got to defend that.
Right, that's what
I
I'm
can't discover anything else new.
That's the thing, is that then you have to, like you said, you have to defend it. You have to defend whatever you believe. And then that just pulls you away from, I think, all the things that we're supposed to have as Christians, right? It pulls you away from joy and it pulls you away from love, because you're always in defense mode. And
it pulls you away from everybody that disagrees with you, So, I was glad to see one of my mentees this summer, and just a few days ago, and the principal called me in to talk with them, and I'm looking forward to mentoring again and helping with some readers there, maybe. So all that's going to be exciting. But what else do you got to say about?
Nothing. I agree with you, though. I mean, I want to stay on the journey, and I don't want to get all, I don't want it to get all muck. Now, let me ask you this question, because we do know some people that are atheists, right? And they have a, pretty decent platform. So do you think there's a place for, I feel like there's a place for, we're not trying to talk anybody out of going to church, if that's,
I think especially the ones I know, because most of the ones that I know, as well as I can, they're kind and, they're not combative. They're real comfortable in what they've learned and what they've experienced and how they're living life now. So the atheist I know, I really don't want to get into that, but just, so many things we hear about in religion these days are molesting children, and all that, and they always say that happens everywhere else, but I don't see, the drag queens I know and the atheists I know, in fact, they're moving away from abusing their children. You know, they're not as into spanking as people were in religion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't have that unhealthy relationship with sex. They're so concerned about everybody else's genitals instead of, you know, just being sure about themselves.
Right.
I'd say, you know, the atheists I know, the agnostics I know, most of them are at peace,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they're living good lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's just hard when you generalize, of course.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
But yeah, you know, just like anything else, some of them are hard to live with. But the ones that I know,
Yeah.
I tend to kind of, you know, especially in progressive Christianity, we kind of left that boat pretty quick
Mm-hmm.
because it still had a lot of trauma, unresolved trauma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that unresolved trauma, the dysregulation, the nervous system, all those things, if you don't address those things, those are big problems.
Yeah.
Whether you're a progressive or a conservative.
Uh-huh.
And even if you're, you know, you move on and you're atheist or agnostic, one of the most important things is dealing with your mental health,
Uh-huh.
your trauma,
Right.
you know, learning to regulate yourself,
Mm-hmm.
learning to control yourself,
Mm-hmm.
Christians, and keep learning, keep asking questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I would say that's probably where I'm at.
yeah. All right, so another successful recording.
There
right?
you go. Yep.
Thank you guys if you're joining in, and as always, we say it every time: be where you are, be who you are, and be at peace.
Thank you for joining us today on the Desert Sanctuary podcast.
Remember, all who wander in the desert are not lost.
We believe all of our stories are sacred.
We are always here if you need someone to hear your story.
Check out our blog on Pathos and also our YouTube channel.
And stay tuned for our Leaning Forward conference.
Remember, we love you.
And be at peace.